Lovely. Happy Women's History Month. Today I have the privilege to converse with the first Black woman to be appointed as Chancellor of the New York City Department of Education, Dr. Meisha Porter. Hello, Dr. Porter. It is a pleasure to meet you.
It's so good to be with you, love.
You too. Thank you so much for speaking with me. I could imagine how busy you are.
There's a lot going on.
So let's get started. When did you know that you wanted to pursue a career in education? Please tell me about your journey.
Awesome. So my mother's a teacher, my aunt's a teacher. I come from a family of teachers. And so that was super, instrumental in me wanting to be an educator. But it was besides like my initial teachers, my mom, my auntie was my pre-K teacher. It was teachers I had in school, teachers who were interested in me, teachers who invested in me, teachers who, when times were hard, found their way to me, made me want to give back in that same way to young people. And so, becoming a teacher for me was about paying back what had been given to me as a student growing up in New York City public schools.
Wow, so you basically you started education because of your mom and your aunt. They inspired you.
Yeah, and my Aunt Brenda was my pre-K teacher. So my first school teacher was my auntie.
Wow.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
What was your favorite job in education?
Wow, being a principal, hands down. Being a principal was my favorite job in education because as a principal, you create the conditions for good learning to happen. And that's for you, for students, that's for teachers, that's for parents, that's for families, for all the people who work in the building. You have an opportunity to really prioritize young people by creating an environment where teachers want to work. Where they work really hard and they give their all to their students, where you recognize all of the great people that make school what it is, the folks who cook food in the cafeteria, the guidance counselors who support you, the school safety agents who keep you safe, the custodians who keep your building clean. And so for me as a principal, I had an opportunity to really wrap myself around all of those people and build a school that was not just a school building, but it was a family and it was a community.
Wow, okay. What is the role of the chancellor?
To me, right, I think every chancellor or every education leader that takes on a system level role decides what it is for them. And for me, because being a principal was my favorite job, the role of the chancellor was being the lead principal in New York City. And that meant the same thing, but on a larger scale. How am I as chancellor creating the conditions for learning to happen in over 1,800 schools? How am I creating the conditions in a pandemic to bring people back to work, right? To make families and communities feel safe about that. And so for me, as chancellor, the primary job was to be the lead principal of the system.
So you like to be the leader?
I kind of like to lead, honey. It's natural for me.
As a chancellor, what was your typical day like?
I don't think there was one typical day. What was important to me, though, was to get into as many schools as I could get into in a week. And so I spent a lot of time in schools. Being the chancellor, though, very honestly, is also a political job. And so you work for the mayor. And so you're engaging almost daily with City Hall and the mayor's office around contract issues, compliance issues, all kinds of issues. And so like I said to you, being the chancellor, for me, it was about being the lead principal of the system. And so for me, it meant centering schools and communities. It meant ensuring that I was there and I was present.
So basically, there was no regular day for you. Every day was busy.
Every day was busy and every day was different. Yes.
Got it. Okay, this is my big question.
Okay.
Ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. Wait. Okay, I'm ready.
What was your most notable achievement?
Oh, hands down, the most notable achievement was reopening the school system. Because you are in 5th grade, that it was hard being home for 2 years in a pandemic. And while people were worried and afraid about what it meant to come back, because none of us have ever lived through this before, hands down, as an educator, as a mother of a high school student, I knew the most important thing that I had to do was to reopen schools safely, reopen schools in a way that families and communities trusted that they could come back. And so everything I did, and when I first got into the role, I said my priorities are open, open, open. And that's what I focused on, opening our high schools up before the end of the last school year, opening up a summer program like no other that really created a space to build a bridge back into school for September, and then finally ensuring that every building in New York City opened safely for our students.
Got it. So, if you could turn back time and talk to your 8-year-old self, what would you tell?
I would say, girl, you don't even know who you're about to be in this world. So don't even give a thought to anything that you are worried about. But just know you have no idea what you're going to be in this world, and it's going to be great.
Wow. So you always wanted to be a teacher?
I wanted to be a teacher or a lawyer. And so I made the best of both worlds. And so when I was about 19 years old, I was working with a youth group in the Bronx. And we became a part of a team that designed the school that I ultimately became the principal of, the Bronx School for Law, Government, and Justice. Mm-hmm. And so my desire to be in the law, I was able to bring into the school that I was able to lead.
So you incorporated both of them when you were
Yes.
teaching.
So at my school, the Bronx School for Law, Government, and Justice, our students took a series of law-related electives, and the building shares a campus with the new Bronx Supreme Court complex, the Bronx Criminal Court complex, actually. And our goal was to make sure that the young people that lived in the community, that went to law and government, learned the inner workings of the court system by being a partner and not by going through the system, which is so important. So many young people learn about the system by going through it. And when you know your rights, when you know the law, and heck, when you understand the system, then you know how to work in the system as opposed to going through the system.
Okay. What challenges and obstacles did you have to overcome, if any?
Oh gosh. I mean, I feel like that's a long laundry list. I mean, my mom was a single mom, and I had responsibilities growing up to help with my younger brothers. And so part of why I became a teacher, I was late every day because I had to drop my brother off at school. And I had a teacher who came to me and said, I miss your voice when you're not in class. And that meant so much to me. And I talked a lot. So I was surprised she missed my voice. I thought she'd be happy when I wasn't there. But she said to me, you know, what can I do to help you? And she let me come to class 5th period when I was late so I wouldn't miss class. And so that was an obstacle, having to help my mom because she needed us to, not because, you know, she just wanted to make our lives harder, but, you know, having a single mom who has 4 children in the house that she's raising was a lot. So, you know, we also had moments when I come from my mother has 3 sisters, and the amazing things also become the things that are hardships. But when you're older, you realize how much resilience they built in you. My mom and her sisters, everybody had a moment when things were hard. So sometimes we lived with them, sometimes they lived with us. But what I learned from it was like what it means to be a family and what it means to support each other.
So your teacher that helped you, she basically was like saying like, oh, so she was helping you at home, and she helped you get your education? Yes,
and her name was Miss Hulak. She was my English teacher in 9th and 10th grade, and I'll never forget her. And I became an English teacher because I believed, and I definitely talked a lot, but I was like, in the English classroom, you can introduce all kinds of literature, and you can have all kinds of conversation, have students read and write about things that are important and connected to them while teaching them to build those skills. But I also that was the teacher who said to me that my voice mattered and I was important to her.
Okay. That's amazing.
It is.
What is the most important lesson you've learned?
I'll tell you the most important lesson I learned from my mama. And so, like you, I'm pretty outgoing and friendly. And so I would always say to my mom at different points in my career, I was like, well, people love me. People love me. And my mother would always say, everybody doesn't love you. And I learned that everybody doesn't love you, but everybody has to respect you.
Yes.
So
you learned a lot from your mom.
Absolutely. And I still learn a lot from my mom every single day.
Wow. Where do you draw your inspiration?
my mom, my daughters, my husband, my family is so supportive and encouraging of me. You know, when you come from a family that just believes in you, like believes in like your power and potential, it makes you stronger. It makes you just, it just gives you a thing and helps you like walk with a walk that you don't even understand sometimes. And so I draw my inspiration really from my family, but I also draw my inspiration, you know, my entire career I worked in the Bronx, and people have these beliefs about the Bronx and, you know, that extend outside of us, the people who live here and work here. And I draw my inspiration from what we've been able to do, what I've been able to do as a leader and an educator here in this borough, what I've seen young people do. And I think for me, my work is always about how can I highlight what's amazing about this borough that I live in, I will be soon working in again, and, you know, just really change the narrative of what people see and believe when they think about the Bronx to what I know and believe.
What do you love about the Bronx?
Oh, my family's here. I got to build and create a school here. I love the culture, the variety of cultures and communities that live here. I love the food. I know Harlem thinks they own the chopped cheese, but the Bronx owns the chopped cheese, and that is a winner every day, every time.
My main goal for hosting this podcast is to inspire and inform the youth about endless possibilities. What advice would you give to my peers and me as we pursue our dreams?
I think you got it. The possibilities are endless. When I was announced as the chancellor, I said, you know, to all the young women, I'm saving a seat for you. So it is only fitting that you're sitting next to me today, dear. But, you know, you have to know possibilities are endless for every single young person, regardless of zip code. And there are things that want to get in the way of that, and you have to push through. Because, like you asked me about what I would tell my 18-year-old self, my 18-year-old self didn't know what my 40-year-old self knows now. And so as long as somebody's pushing you, encouraging you, and you believe inside of you of the endless potential that you have, you'll definitely reach it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions for me?
I have a question. Yes, I do. Why is doing this important to you?
Interviewing people is important to me because I could see the host perspective of things. I could see from the person that I'm interviewing's point of view, and I could see how you guys cope with your everyday life and how you do your life, because not everything is true on Google. You can search something on Google and it's not always true. So that's why I wanted to start interviewing people to know their true life story. And
I'm so honored to be picked to be interviewed by you. But how do you pick the people? What makes you say, I want to talk to Meisha Porter?
I pick the people because I pick people when I see them like I saw you in the book or the newspaper book, and I saw you and I was like, I wonder what she's all about.
Okay.
And I wanted to know like what was your goal in life? So that's how I pick people, like to see what their goal is in life.
Awesome.
Any more?
Oh, I mean, you handled those so well. I have to be very prepared for you, I see. Well, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Well, when I grow up, I want to be a pediatrician.
Wow. So it's very interesting that you're doing this and you want to be a pediatrician. Do you see connections between the two? It's okay. All right. Well, this was fun. Thanks for coming over.
Thank you so much for letting me talk with you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, please like, follow, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Peace, y'all.